Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Drew Barry, and we're back with some more Datamine cards. Let's go. I got 4 for you guys today. We're going to check them out. Some good, some bad. Let's kick it off with this first one, Mr. Fantastic. Or is it Claw? Or is it Orca? I don't. Oh, no. It's Miss Marvel. She's just kind of an amalgamation of all those different characters in the game right now with their abilities. So what is Miss Marvel? She is a 3/4 ongoing. If this is your only card here, adjacent locations have +5 power. That's pretty crazy. If you look at the net total amount of power that this card can put out if its conditions are met, that is a total of 14 power. 14 power on a 3-drop. There is no such thing in the game right now. So that would be absolutely wild. But of course, we have to look at these conditions because they do have some drawback, right? So the first thing that we can consider is that because this is an ongoing effect, if you were to play this, say, I don't know, any turn before turn 6, right? Then somebody could Enchantress or Rogue it. And that'd be really brutal, right? Because you're probably a significant portion of your game plan has been surrounded around this card, leaving it alone, and then it gets its ongoing ability removed. So that sucks. Okay, so that's a possibility. Also, the other possibility, which is pretty obvious, is that it is the only card on the field to activate its ability. So if there's like a goblin that shoots over or squirrels pop out from Central Park or anything along those lines, Miss Marvel's going to get wrecked. She is not going to get her +5 to the adjacent locations, which brings me to the third condition that does need to be met. It doesn't need to be met, right? But to like maximize your value, right, is that you have to play it in the middle. It doesn't say it in the text, but because it's adjacent locations, we have 3 locations in Marvel Snap, you have to play this in the middle to retain the full value. Now you can, of course, play it to the left, you play it to the right, and then you're still getting, 9 for your 3-drop. That is insane. That is very, very good. Probably a very viable strategy in a lot of scenarios when you can't play in the middle, which is actually a really nice touch to the card. If it had said it has to be played in the middle, that'd be a bit rough. It has that crystal problem of, not always being able to, pull off the ability. But regardless, I think this is really, really, really good card. That's why I'm giving it 5 stars. Because those conditions that I listed off, yeah, they suck. But it's not that bad. Even if you get Enchantress, even if the ability is removed, you have a 3/4. And it's not that bad. You forced your opponent's hand to counter this card because it was being so effective. And I think just for that alone, it's just so good. You can even like do shenanigans by getting power over to Miss Marvel. That's why I have Claw there as like a synergistic card. Just because your opponent's probably going to think, well, that's only 4 power. I only have to beat 4 power at this location. And then I'll just try and win another location, right? But then all of a sudden, if you use Claw or other means to get power into the mid, let's say that's where you've set up your Miss Marvel, then all of a sudden you have a sizable powered location that your opponent didn't expect, and you win that way. Now, you can't really synergize this with too many other things. Like the first thing that you'd probably want to is Onslaught. Can't really do that. But Claw, another one I thought of, Cloak, right? Cloak's not too bad because if something does happen to be at that location, you could turn 5 cloaks so that on turn 6, you can move those things away, leaving Miss Marvel alone. And then I have Orca here as an example of what if you did a game where you played Namor, Miss Marvel, Orca. That would be just so funny. I think that'd be a really cool way to sneak out a win and basically just hope that your opponent's not playing Viper or Goblins or anything like that, right? And then lastly, I don't have it here, but like Spectrum buffs, right? But I don't think that's all that good because then you get her to a 3/6 instead of a 3/4, which is, it's nothing to scoff at. Like if your opponent's only planning by winning with 5, then that could help. But overall, I don't know if that's the best strategy. But regardless, lots of potential here. The power is just through the roof. Honestly, I don't think this ends up being her final form. I think she's going to be dropped in her base power to merely heavily, say you got to get this condition met to really retain value because 3/4 is just good. I don't know. Maybe not. You guys let me know. Have you been looking at the variants? Miss Marvel has 9 variants, 9 or 8. It's something like that. But that is a high level of variance for a card that has yet to be released. So I expect to see this in the next 2-3 months. I feel like this or whenever that Marvel's movie is coming out, that's when this is coming out. I don't even know. 1 second. Okay, I just looked it up. November. I think this card will come out in November. That seems really far away for having so many variants already. But that's when that movie comes out. Yeah, it just makes sense to me. That's when Miss Marvel is going to come out. That's my bet. Anyways, amazing variants, great effect. I'm giving it 5 stars. Such a good card. Let's get to the next one. All right, and talking about cards that have a lot of variants and have yet to be released, we have Jean Grey. Dude, this one has 9. I counted this one for sure. It has 9. Miss Marvel has 8. Crazy amount of variants, and they look so good. So another card I would expect to see fairly soon. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But here is Jean Grey. Now, I have talked about this card a number of times on this channel, and I have had a lot of high praise for it. But I'm here to tell you that I didn't actually fully understand it. And I think I have a better grasp of it here today, which is why I'm giving Jean Grey 3 stars. Okay, I'm really excited about this card and this character as a whole, X-Men universe, all that good stuff. That has always been kind of my favorite part of Marvel. But here we have Jean Grey. So, and I have another card with her to talk about next. Okay, so Jean Grey 3/3 on reveal. The next card your opponent plays must be played here if possible. So the 2 things I'm highlighting here are next and if possible, because originally when I talked about this card, I thought a really great combo could be like play Jean Grey at a flooded location, right? So you play Storm and then you play Jean Grey there, and then your opponent's next turn is just wrecked. But that's not true, because if your opponent can't play there, I think her effect just straight up does nothing. So that's actually a bad combo. That's the way I'm interpreting this text anyways. The other thing is that it's just the next card. If your opponent has Wasp and then their big play, they can just straight up play Wasp at the Jean Grey location and play their big play where they actually want to. So it's not that limiting for your opponent unless they're doing really slow decks. I would have loved to see this kind of card when Sandman was running rampant, right? Because Sandman, a lot of those players were playing Sandman, and then they would get Dr. Doom out early, and then they would Odin on top of the Doom to get a bunch of Doom bots everywhere. But what if you could play Jean Grey on that turn that they played Dr. Doom, and you play it elsewhere? So then all of a sudden they have to play Odin elsewhere, and it doesn't really work out. They got to play a different card, something along those lines. Or you ruin their Dr. Doom play somehow. I don't know. You get the idea, right? Any of those slow plays to influence where they're going to put that card. So in a way, I feel like she's basically saying, I want to put your power elsewhere while I win the other locations, which is nice because you can do things with Professor X, right? So you can lock in that location, and then bam, you won it. It still runs the inherent risk that your opponent could play a card at the Jean Grey location as a decoy and then actually put power out where you wanted to play Professor X, but I still feel like there's pretty good value there, especially if you know what your opponent's playing and you line it up just nice. Another combo that seems really good is the Guardians of the Galaxy characters, right? They had Nebula come out as a way to support them, but they still haven't quite gotten there. Well, you could do Jean Grey, where the next card that your opponent has to play has to be at the Jean Grey location. Easy snipe for the Guardians, but actually not as easy as it may seem, because your opponent could just not play a card that turn. If they end up skipping and they play the next turn, then you might whiff on your Guardian. But I think in most scenarios, you're going to influence where they're playing, and then you end up sniping them. So I love the disruption. I love getting your opponent to, like force them to play at the location you want them to play and then adapt your play accordingly. I just don't know if it's efficient enough or it's controlling enough to really, decide the fate of a game. The best way I can think of it is on turn 5, right? You play Jean Grey, and then hopefully your opponent only planned on playing that one big card, and now they can't. This would have been a great solution for those Shuri Red Skull Taskmaster stuff, right? Because Shuri turn 4, Red Skull turn 5, and then Taskmaster, well, all of a sudden, oh, whoops, sorry, Jean Grey at the location that you probably can't win or whatever, or the location that doesn't have armor, so I can Shang-Chi you on turn 6, something along those lines. That would have been a great solution. But right now in this meta, I just don't know if it would do enough. We got a lot of that Darkhawk running around and stuff like that, but yeah, it'd be tricky. But you know what? I'm giving it 3, honestly, as just a way out of this on this one, because I could really see it being a higher star rating and I could see it being lower. It's kind of just in the middle there for me, but pretty neat. Another synergy is leader, because maybe you want to copy that big thing. Maybe you want to put Jean Grey at the location where your opponent probably wanted to play, and then you lead her elsewhere wherever you can, and then get that big card. I don't know. Maybe that's a nice solution right there. But anyways, that's Jean Grey. Her variants, dude. Her variants. She has 2 Archer variants. Wow. Let's go. They are so good. I don't even know which one's my favorite, because I just love all of them. This one right here, though, is insane. But anyways, really hyped for this card to come to Snap. But there is a card that actually specifically synergizes with Jean Grey. Let's check it out. And that very card is Phoenix Force. a 6/3 on reveal. Revive one of your destroyed cards with +5 power. If it's Jean Grey, +10. That's crazy. Well, so there's another Datamine card that has a specific card in its text, but we haven't really seen that in Snap before. And let me tell you right off the hop, I don't love it. I like the theme here that's going on, but I really don't like the idea with how hard cards are to acquire in this game. If these were to both come out in a month, that would feel so bad. It's kind of like Iron Lad and Howard the Duck kind of synergize directly together. You would think you could maybe get them in a package or something, but because they're both Series 5, that's 12,000 tokens. To get that combination is just too expensive for the majority of players. So when you have a card like this, where like, I don't know, maybe that's not even the best play. We're going to get to that in a second, but you kind of want to pull off that combo of Phoenix Force with Jean Grey. Well, maybe you can't because your wallet's not thick enough. Like, holy smokes, that's a bummer. But regardless, let's just talk about the card and its power level overall. We know what Jean Grey does, but is reviving her to get 10 power worth it? Because if you remember, she had 3. So that would bring her back as a 13 power. This is 3. That is 16 power for a 6-drop. Not too shabby, but if you're playing this on turn 6, Jean Grey's ability probably isn't going to activate. I'm assuming that when a card is revived, its on reveal would then trigger, as if it's being played a second time. The only reason I'm thinking that's the case is because of Hela decks. That's how it works with Hela. As I spill my drink everywhere. But, you know, that's how it worked with Hela. So I kind of just imagine that that's how it worked with Phoenix Force, which it kind of has to, I think, to give this card viability, because if you revive one of your destroyed cards with only +5 power, it's not Jean Grey, right? Then, I don't know, depending on the power of that card, I suppose, then maybe the power is just insane and crazy. I also assume it goes to the same positioning because it doesn't specify random or anything like that. So wherever it was destroyed, it will then resurrect in that same position. So hopefully that's not full, because I assume this would just have no target, which would not work, especially if you only destroyed one card, which I think is the goal with this. You target destroy something so that it gets resurrected. Let's say you like ate up Null somehow. You cheated out Null, ate him up. He gets resurrected. He gets all that bonus power from his original power total being destroyed, and then the bonus from this card. That could be a pretty sweet synergy. Another synergy is with Wong, right? You get 2 of the cards that you destroyed and they get resurrected with the bonus power. So maybe this is good, but I am giving it 2 stars. For the sole reason that I just feel like that the cards that you aim to destroy, to put in the work to destroy those cards, usually don't have a lot of high power in their own right. Maybe if you do like some Venom shenanigans, which we're seeing a little bit right now, right? Then maybe that works out. But for the most part, it's like your squirrels to get triggers for your death. It's like Yondu destroying thing. That could be a thing. I don't even know. It does say one of your destroyed cards, so I guess not. That would be your opponent's destroyed card. Okay, moving on from synergies. Another one, right? Could be Bucky Barnes. Oh, that sucks. Because you want to destroy Bucky Barnes for the Winter Soldier. You don't actually want another copy that has 6 power. You want the Winter Soldier that is 6 power. But then there's synergies like where you use Red Skull and then you eat it up with Venom and then you play Phoenix Force and you get that Red Skull back out. That could be pretty crazy with a bonus +5 power. So that's where I start to think, okay, this card could be pretty sick. Maybe I'm underestimating it with 2 stars, and that's fair. I just feel like what you want to do is with Jean Grey. I don't know if that's enough. I don't know if resurrecting this card with 13 power and then this on its own right having 3 power, if that ends up being enough. Yeah, that's 16 power. That's crazy. But that's, I don't know. Then you gotta work to destroy Jean Grey. You hope you get her out. You hope you play her sooner. Maybe there's a backup plan in that kind of deck. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this card. I just don't know if it's quite there. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. We got 2 variants for this one, not nearly as much as Jean Grey, so maybe they don't get put out at the same time. Maybe this card's ability gets changed because of the difficulty in acquiring cards in Marvel Snap. That would feel bad eventually if these are both in Series 3 and you get Phoenix Force before you get Jean Grey. That'd be a little bit weird, wouldn't it? It's not the end of the world. This still can work with a lot of other cards, but it's kind of whack. I don't know how I feel about that whole situation, so let me know in the comments below. Let's get to the last card. All right, and here is our last card, and it is Annihilus. This is one of the most recent Datamine cards that I ended up talking about because for a while it didn't have a stat line, and I thought now's a good time to talk about it. I know a lot of people are hyped up. We do not have any variants for it, so I'm just going to roll all the variants from the previous 3 cards. But here's Annihilus. Another really quick thing I want to talk about before I even get into the card is that the upcoming new game mode Conquest mode that's coming to Marvel Snap. I might have a video talking about that soon because I'm really hyped for it. But it seems to have seasons because it said in their notes, or when they talked about it in one of the most recent patches, that the Annihilation season for Conquest is going to be coming. I don't know what that means, but Annihilation, maybe there's something there. Maybe we see Annihilus sooner than later. But regardless, here is Annihilus, a 6/5. On reveal, if each of your cards randomly chooses a location to move to. Here is the biggest question, and the reason I have this at 4 or 2 stars, okay? Can Annihilus shuffle those cards? What I mean by that is if I have a full board, can it still move them around, swap positions of those cards? Because that would be fantastic. That would make this really, really good. I would put it at 4 stars. Or does Annihilus go, okay, this card moves here, this card moves here, this card moves here, and he needs spots to move them to, and he needs to like figure it out and do the math, or it all happens at once. Maybe it's a trigger right at once, and Annihilus goes, oh, there's one spot open, I'll randomly move one card. Done. Like, how does it work? How does it know? I don't quite know. I assume the reason I'm kind of leaning with 4 stars on the left there, I'm assuming that it'll be able to just shuffle everything around. If one moves, a spot opens, another one moves there, and so on and so forth. And then the card is fine, right? That's a pretty good move finisher because Heimdall is telegraphed. I guess anytime that you've seen movement cards played against you, you're like, okay, turn 6 Heimdall. I'll just prepare for that and I'll be okay. And, you know, unfortunately, that's usually the case. Sometimes there's a few shockers in there, but for the most part, it's a Heimdall turn 6. Well, bam, what happens if Annihilus hits? It's almost like an indirect buff to Heimdall because he's no longer the only finisher, so he'll be a little bit more surprising. Whereas Annihilus is totally surprised. You don't know where those cards are going, which is also hands off the wheel for you because despite the crazy buffs you might get with your multiple men, your vulture, your human torch, all that good stuff, you got to watch out, dude, because random doesn't always work out. It's kind of like Hela, except you know Hela's going to drop some big bombs. Whereas Annihilus, it's like, oh, I really hope you stack these correctly because, I don't know, maybe your opponent has like one location has like 100 power. They like stacked like hardcore at one location with Iron Mans and stuff like that. And you're like, please don't move them there. Anywhere but there. Move them away from there. And then he keeps moving them there. But I don't know. This seems really fun. I think this is what move decks need. We're getting a lot of support cards in the Spider-Verse season for movement decks that kind of build up to turn 6, but don't help that final turn. I would love to see an alternative to Heimdall that's also not just like 2 or 3 card combos, right? So that's kind of what movement has it right now. It has Heimdall, and then like 2 cards that you could play as a combination as your finisher. I would love to see just a 6-drop that just says, this is my movement finisher of this deck. Let's go. Then there's Magneto and stuff like that, but that's a different deck. I'm talking about the supporting your cards moving deck. That's what we need. Those are your cards that support it. The Human Torch, the Vulture, the Multiple Man, getting all those buffs. I'm hyped for this card. This looks sick. I love movement decks. They're so much fun. Let's give them some love. I hope it works the way it should. But you know, you get some weird stuff like the Captain Marvels. If you have 2, they actually don't communicate with each other. One will check if it can win the game, and if it can't, the other will do the same check and they can't win the game and they don't move. It's a little odd. So you never know with how these cards think, okay? So that's why I got them mixed up on the star rating there. But hey guys, let me know what you think about all these Datamine cards. They are so fun to review. I can't wait for them to jump into Snap. I hope that by the time these come out, they're a little bit cheaper for everybody. They changed the card acquisition. They have hinted at that. That would be really nice because they are awesome. They look fun. Let us play with them. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.